Okay. Okay, welcome everybody to the Murray Amateur Radio Club. Oh, I need to actually share my screen. So let me share screen number 2 there. I don't need, and okay, I shared screen number 2. Let me get this out of the way. Let's see, where, okay. Man alive. Okay, good. Okay, I guess I should have started recording now. So we're going to talk about what to do when disaster strikes, and we've already given this presentation. I've had a couple of people ask that I do this again, so that's why we're doing it today. Obviously, well, Jan's not here, obviously, and we're moving the Arden deep dive for next week, and we're swapping next week with this week. So that's why we're doing this here. And this is something good to know anyway. And a lot of different type of disasters that are that we could be involved with. We're going to talk about what we really should be doing. And there's the agenda. I'm not going to read everything in the agenda. We're just going to go through each of this. So this presentation is going to focus on how we can be a resource, an asset to our communities, right? And obviously, because we're ham radio operators, we want to be effective radio communicators. That's going to be something very, very important for Murray City, for us. We're going to take you through a ride through a disaster, and we're going to talk a little bit about the big one, the 7.X earthquake that is scheduled to hit the Salt Lake County area by next week. How's your water?
It was 50 years ago, wasn't it?
Therein lies the problem. It is, we are 50 years, we're at least 50 years overdue. So we're going to talk about what we can do to help ourselves, our family, and our community. And you hit it right on the button there. Salt Lake County is 50 years plus late for the big one. And I've already talked about the 7.5, 7.4 earthquake that I experienced, but again, those are life-changing experiences, life-changing events. I've been through all kinds of 6.x and lower throughout living in various parts of the country. I've been through hurricanes, I've been through tornadoes, been through severe winter storms, I've been through, I already said flooding, a lot of natural disasters. And I tell you what, it was the 7.5 earthquake that woke me up the most. That one was the most scariest thing because it blew me away. I was totally unexpected. It was totally foreign to me what I thought I knew a 7.5 would be. When I was down in Chile, I knew that there were big earthquakes and there was a probability that I'd experience an earthquake while I was there. Well, I experienced 2 of them, more than 2, but 2 of them that were greater than 7.0. And, you learn really quick that if it wasn't built to withstand an earthquake, it's coming down on top of you, right? And anyway, so here in Utah, there's about 700 earthquakes every year. We don't feel the majority of them. We have 13 of them during the year that is over a 3.0, and most times they are really, really deep. And so you may feel them, you may not, right? We got the Magna earthquake, the 5.7. That was a people thought that was the end of the world, at least for people living in Magna. They're around all the time. The issues that we have is with the Wasatch Fault, and like we already know, the Wasatch Fault goes from Idaho to the Fayette, Utah area, and it's divided up into zones. The Wasatch Fault is actually a number of smaller segments. Each zone, the Wasatch Fault was divided into segments, and they're called zones. And like I already alluded to, the Wasatch Fault is actually comprised of hundreds of faults. And here's a diagram of some of the many faults in Utah. So when we say the Wasatch Fault, we're talking about a lot of active zones. If you just look at the mountains, anytime you see a huge mountain range, what typically made the mountain range? Something going on, right? So you know right off the bat, there could be earthquake activity. Exactly. As a matter of fact, we can go in and look at the history of the faults. There's places in Utah where they've dug down and they are actively monitoring the faults, and they're able to see the footprint, the fingerprint, I should say, of all of the faults that has happened throughout time. Every large-scale magnitude earthquake leaves its mark, and we can read that. And here's a diagram of the Wasatch Fault zones. You can see that there are 5 major zones in the central Utah area. And we meaning the geologists, have a 20,000 year history of the faults, the major earthquakes that happened along this Wasatch Fault. And it turns out that every 300 to 400 years, there's a major 7.x quake somewhere along the fault. And that happens all the time. The diagram at left shows the faults from the last 6,500 years. Let's concentrate on the Salt Lake City, or the Salt Lake County fault. The last major fault hit 1,200 years ago, okay? That's give or take. So you can just see, look, this is why they are so concerned, is because Salt Lake County, the Salt Lake Fault is next up on the list, right? We may go for another 1,200 years and not see an earthquake, but it's, huh?
Don't jinx us.
But maybe not. So, you just don't know. So what's the best way to prepare? Like, for example, someone said in football, the best defense is a good offense, right? So same thing for preparedness. If we prepare for the worst, then no matter what happens, we'll be ready, right? And so we're going to prepare as if the 7.5 earthquake will happen tomorrow, right? Now, one thing that, I don't think it's in this presentation. If it is, I'll just repeat it. But there isn't a geologist in Utah, and I take a lot of this information from the University of Utah Geology Department. They're the one who are looking at the seismic monitors and all. That's okay. They're looking at this, and through the 20,000 year history that we've been able to find, to look at the history of the fault, they found that there's never been an earthquake greater than 7.5. Could be 7.6. So 7.5, 7.6 is the upper end, but what happens is it's usually a 7.4, 7.5 when it hits. So when it hits, it hits, right? And of course, we have a lot of small fault or earthquakes that are happening all the time.
A lot of the damage is gonna be done depending on how long that 7.4, 7.5.
Exactly, the duration of the earthquake is a big determinant factor of if you survive or not, right? So this is in the avenues, and this is and when they do estimates for building code and stuff, they always use a 6.8 to 7.0 earthquake model. They don't go beyond that. And this study was for a 7.0 earthquake. You can see red means there's a 70 to 100% probability of complete property damage, not moderately damaged, no, complete property damage, and that's in the red. These are homes that are old. So do you live in an old home? And yeah, I'm shaking my head too. Is it brick and mortar, or is it a stick home? Is it, all of these things come into play. So if we do have a major earthquake, the avenues are going to be hit hard. And so I hope the Utah Ham Radio Club is ready for that.
So that line, the border between the yellow and red, what is that?
That is actually on a fault line.
Yeah. But street coordinates, roughly?
I could zoom in and see what streets they are. That's probably a good idea. I'll do that in my spare time. Because I was never curious to see exactly where it's at. Since it's in the avenues, I haven't worried about it too much. But that's actually a good question. So let's see.
Basically in the yellow area.
Say again?
Murray would be in the yellow area.
No, this is all in the upper avenues. So this is.
That's all in the avenues.
That's, north is toward the top of the screen, so.
Yeah, here's the airport.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
So we are we're not even hitting South Salt Lake yet.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
Okay, yeah, so this is all avenue stuff. So there's I-80, there's I-15. This is, I believe, the other side of I-80, I think. What's another main?
21st.
It's like 400 south. I think that's what this is. This is the hospital is in this area here. I'll have to check. I'm going to actually go and take a look at and overlay exactly the addresses on here, right, on what's going on. But yeah.
And the yellow is?
Yellow is, let's see,
30 to 70.
30 to 70% complete destruction. So you need to understand the probability of destruction. This isn't percentage like you're only going to get 30% of your home damage. No, this is a probability of total destruction of the structure. And there's a 30 to 70% chance of these homes over here, which means that.
Wouldn't be able to live in it after.
Say again?
Wouldn't be able to live in it.
Correct. And it might be, again, depends on the earthquake, and the earthquake has its own personality. It will do what it wants to do. The home right next to you may be completely flattened and you're okay. Who knows why this happens, but how many people have seen the 7.7 earthquake was it Taiwan? That just barely happened in March. Google 7.7 earthquake in Bangkok or something like that, and you'll see all kinds of videos that I was going to include some of that in there, but the pictures that I have are just like what's there. But you can see what a 7.7 does, right? And how many buildings collapsed. And, you know, right now there's over 5,000 people dead and, you know, tens of thousands injured, a lot of missing people, you know, and these are high-rise buildings that came down. It's just horrible. So anyway, a lot of old structures in downtown Salt Lake. The homes are it's pretty bad. So a number of things. Say again.
I just Googled it. 2024 in Taiwan.
Taiwan, yeah.
7.5. Kills 9, tsunami warnings lifted. But the picture on the front page has.
Yeah. We're looking at a picture of a building that's at a 30-degree angle, maybe a 40-degree angle to the street. That's not a good sign.
No. Makes me want to walk down the.
I know. Okay. You know you're in trouble when if you're on the second floor and you're tilted and you open up your patio door and you can walk out on the street. You know you really should not be in that building, right? So buildings collapse. This is one of the things that we're going to see a lot of. Roads, in particular, we're going to have severe road damage. Now, I get asked all the time, why do the roads look like that? Why are roads hit very hard?
Well, we're sitting on top of the dirt, and it can.
Okay, but why the implosion? What's in roads that are not underneath your house? All of the pipes, all of the sewage, all of the cavities are in the roadways.
Yeah.
That is why the roads do that, which consequently means that the sewer lines, the communication lines, water lines, anything going down that along the road is scheduled for deletion. So yeah, and then we have bridges. Then we have bridge collapses. That's not good. Then we have. This is a great picture of a typical home in the avenues. Isn't this like an avenues home?
Yeah.
And so you have that, and we're going to see a lot of that. And it may be that your home is okay, but if you have a hill behind you, this slide could bury you, okay? And so that is why there's a lot of red up in the avenues, because they're on hills, the homes are old, and, it will become dicey. Indeed, entire neighborhoods could look like that, and it's just not good.
You get these people that build the houses up on the hills, and if that hill comes down, it don't matter what you've done to try and make it earthquake safe. It's not gonna be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could
Nothing underneath the house.
you could put rods in at a 45 degree and a mile down the road or down into the mountain to anchor it, right? But if the mountain above you is coming down, yeah, you're toast. So entire neighborhoods can go bye-bye. And worse yet, there's going to be no government help. 911 will not be answering your call, okay? So 911 ops cease to work. We'll be on our own for days and quite possibly for weeks. So the big question is, what do we do? That's what I want to know. What do we do? Well, we can do what most people do. And what is that? When in trouble and in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout. We do that. The ignorant will do that. People who are unprepared, people who are not trained. That is what happens when you're not prepared, right? So, my question to you is, will you run in circles, scream and shout. I think maybe the first few seconds, everybody deserves a scream and shout session, but it's time to get down to business, right? So, got a simple question for you. How can I be part of the solution? And so, okay, Dan, what solution are you talking about? So what is the solution? Well, we start by,
Keep yourself safe.
I'm sorry?
Keep yourself safe so that you can be part of the solution.
At a 60,000 foot level, I'm going to start at the very top. So we're going to start by learning. Okay, so the first solution is learning what we can do. We need to start learning how we need to know what probable problems are and prepare for them. In the ham radio arena, we're talking about a loss of communications, right? That's the problem. So how are we as ham radio operators going to provide communications to solve the problem? So we have learning, and then we have preparing. We know what the problem is. We've learned about the problem. Now, we've probably also learned or talked about how to solve it. Now we need to prepare. What is it that I need to do? Do I have the things already that will enable me to deal with communications or just the disaster? Do I have everything? If not, what's missing? Find out find out what you have to do to finish out your training. Now is the training. Now that I have what I need, do I know how to use it? And can I show others how to use it? So that is training, and then practicing. I now know how to use what I have. I need to now practice until it becomes muscle memory, okay? And I was going to say the last thing is refining. So how can I improve what I have? Can I improve my preps, my training, my practicing, my equipment, myself? And after we've done with the refining, what do? Well, we start all over again. It's a continual learning process, okay? I hate to bring this up, and maybe it's, let's see, there's a radio club that is South Salt Lake. They're going to have CERT training on Thursdays, okay? And so the question is, do we want as a club to go and be certified, to go through CERT training again, or do we want to ask Murray City to re-up? I think wherever we have our CERT training, we need to continually redo the CERT training.
What could be nice too is you always do it here at Murray, you may miss what these people here have prepared for and learned to do that Murray hasn't covered. So then you get a broader.
That's why I like to go to other places too, because we may be able to share our experiences that we've done with Murray to South Salt Lake. But just let that percolate in your mind for a second.
I know South Salt Lake also worked for the last few years with Mill Creek. It's a joint thing. So
Yeah.
Just so we did it this time.
I didn't see any joint announcement with Mill Creek. I do know that they opened it up to anybody, and I will send that email out. It would be kind of nice to go as a club if we think that's important, and I'd be okay with foregoing the next month of classes to do the CERT training. But there's some online stuff you have to do first, and then you do your in-person CERT, and then there's a Saturday that we take the, like we did with Murray, the finals, air quotes, right? So anyway, something to think about. So what we have is we have a SOG, right? A standard operating guideline. lot of clubs do not have a club SOP or an SOG, and so this is where I talk about that. And so we already know what this is, so I'm just gonna go through this real quick. And the information or why we have a SOG is to do some very important things. In particular, this right here lists in detail the procedures of what you need to do when the worst happens. That should be in a SOP and or SOG somewhere, including everything else. And our SOG has all of this stuff, including this right here. So let's take a look at when the worst happens. And this is where we're going to go into the nitty-gritty. Immediately after the grid down event, the first thing to do is to secure yourself and family, those dwelling with you in your home, and attend to any medical attention. First try 911. If it's an earthquake, it ain't going to happen, but what the hey. Since most forms of communications which means will be down, you must not rely on getting in contact with 911 using your telephone.
Texting might work. The 911 call centers in the county can receive texts.
Okay, and if it's a 7.5 earthquake, do you think they'll be able to send a truck to your location? No, so.
Problem is somebody gonna be there to receive that text?
Right, so my point is, you must not rely on 911 to send an ambulance. We need to know how to stop the bleed. We need to know how to perform CPR and other forms of first aid. So it's this reason where we need to learn first aid now, right? We need to go through not only CERT, but other organizations. And I'd like to actually ask somebody in the club to be in charge of getting a third party in here, like the American Red Cross or IHC Hospital or whoever, to have a class here on stop the bleed and CPR and maybe it's just Murray Fire that will do this for us.
And they should be able to do it, I mean.
I would hope so. They're all paramedics. Yeah, so that's something that if you want to volunteer for that, let me know. So here's the thing that you really need to know: secure yourself and the family, verify dwelling habitability, learn first aid, stop the bleed, CPR, participate in CERT. Okay, after you've secured yourself and assuming your dwelling is habitable, immediately turn off your water supply coming into the home. Why do we turn off the water supply?
That way the water don't go back.
You
And you
know,
lose, and you get junk in there, make it so you can't drink it.
Okay, so you don't want yucky stuff to come into the home, and you don't, if you live above the gravity drain, you don't want your good water to leave your house, right? Because remember what the roads look like? They're all over the place. Guess where all the sewer and the water is going to be draining into? The streets, right? So you want to keep bad water from entering your home. And why is that important, do you think?
We need drinking water. You can only go so many days without water.
Right. So 3 days without water, you're kind of toast, huh? So what's there's a rule of threes. 3 minutes without what will take you out? Air. 3 hours in what conditions could kill you? Your environment. Okay. 3 days without water. Okay. 3 days, then 3 months I'll think of something for 3 months. The most I've heard was up to 3 days.
But will we be alive after 3 months anyway?
Right, exactly.
At the others.
So we want to keep all the water, and water is going to be a precious commodity. This is why we talked about water sanitation in general. Remember those club meetings that we had on water purification? Is it worth doing that again or not? I got a couple of
I would say yes.
nods. Okay.
We can always be reminded
Yeah. Okay.
and stuff.
And you turn off the gas supply only if what?
It smells.
Only if you smell it or you have the house is on fire. And guess where the gas supply turnoff is?
Outside your house, usually.
I'm sorry?
Outside your house.
It's outside of our house. Yep, usually is the case. Identify what that is, identify the type of tool that is needed. Usually just a crescent wrench, adjustable wrench will do. You can buy dedicated wrenches for that. Regardless, I would have one that is made that you keep just for that, okay? Write that off. Don't use it for anything else. Stick it right where your gas meter is, okay? And put a chain on it if you want, right, to try to secure it. And it doesn't matter if it rusts, because you want to open up the jaws just so you can put the tab in and turn it, right? And so that's what I do. I have an old rusty adjustable wrench that's no longer adjustable, but it'll turn off the gas. And no one else wants the wrench, because it's useless except for only one thing, and that's to turn off the gas. So anyway, do that now. What about your main water supply? That's usually just on the inside of the house, right?
Well, you have one, like we have one inside the house, but you have the main one.
That's just where the meter is, though.
Yeah.
That's you don't need to deal with that, okay?
That's another place you can turn it off if needed.
It's a moot point, because more than likely it's going to break going into your home. But yes, that is another place to turn it off. That's not the important place. The important place is inside your home, okay? Has everybody looked at their main water? Is it rusted? Is it corroded?
I replaced the valve with a ball valve,
You got a
full hand.
very good.
You mentioned a couple of weeks ago on the net for us to do that, so I went and shut mine off. Boy, it was stiff and hard to turn off. Coming back, but they need to be exercised.
Yes, yep, exercise it, and in my opinion, they need to be replaced with a quarter-turn ball valve, because you can instantly see if the water is on, or if it's 90 degrees, if it's off, right? And if anybody needs help with that, let me know. I've changed 1 billion of them. In Kentucky, I used to work for the water department, so I did all.
Those other type valves have a tendency to leak a lot.
I'm sorry?
Those other valves have a tendency to leak a lot,
And why is that?
because they get corroded inside and stuff. And
It's that,
little
yeah,
gasket that,
there's that rubber gasket that gets eaten away, and that's the point where it's probably a 3/4 line coming into the house. A lot of water going in that one direction, and so that stuff gets eaten away. So make sure you can turn it off, and if there's an issue, you need to deal with it now, not when you need to deal with it, right? Now's the time. Now you have time to worry about it. So know where the water entrance is, know where the gas shut-off valve is, and if you need to deal with it, now's the time to deal with it, okay? And so there's the main points there. Then we place the FEMA Wellbeing Identification poster on your front window or door. Your stake or neighborhood may or may not use this. Even though your neighborhood may not use it, the fire department knows what this is. And so if they are able to get out and they see a red poster in the window, that's the same thing as yelling 911, okay? So you definitely want to do that, and if you have to vacate your habitat, you want to put a big X on your door, okay? And these numbers here all mean something, and at the very end of this presentation, I have a whole listing of what you can put there. But most importantly, if you're vacating, just a simple X will suffice. You don't have to do anything else. What they'll do is they'll come in and they'll verify that there's nobody in the house. Okay? So place your FEMA colored signage on the front door window and an X if you have to vacate the home. Now, as a ham radio operator, you've decided that you want to be part of the bigger picture. And so what do? You turn your ham radio to your club's main repeater frequency. Ours is, we know what ours is, 22396. And we make a general announcement indicating that you are listening for and checking to see if the repeater is in working order. If you receive a squelch tail from the repeater, then you know the repeater is working. And then you start a net, okay? Okay, so we want to make sure the repeater is working. If the repeater is down, then we go to our secondary frequency, which is?
14716.
Huh?
14716.
Close.
223,440 is our symbol.
223440. That is our secondary frequency. And we're using the 220 band because no one else is. And so we will not be bombarded with traffic that we don't want.
All the others find out about it.
Well, that's fine. That's fine.
At least we'll have it
They
clear
won't
to
have
start.
radios that,
Yeah, they have to have the right radio. So, and what's our third option? And I'm figuring if there's a problem getting on the 223/440 simplex, then we really have problems. The other frequency, the 2 meter frequency, is what you said, Dave, which is
147.16.
no, that's the repeater down. We do not use the Crossroads repeater at all. We are using our main repeater and then 2 simplex frequencies, the 223/440 and the
7.6.
147,600. That is simplex. Okay? And so that 147,600 is assigned by Aries for Murray City. Okay, no one else is supposed to use it. And so if you're a hammer, that's you don't have to be part of the club, like the stake things there in Murray, we have a number of stakes here, right? They can monitor that for the Aries announcements and that type of stuff. Okay, and of course we make calls on the frequency every 15 minutes on the 0, 15, 30, and 45. And once several members are on frequency, then we start a net, we gather names. We do not wait for anyone to start the net. You start the net until someone else takes over, okay? The worst thing you can do is assume that someone else is going to do it, okay? Don't assume.
That could be too late.
Yep, exactly. Okay, all of our radios will have the same load, which is good. When I give this presentation to other clubs around the U.S., it's amazing. Many of them don't have a standard load for their area. And so they see what we do and they go, you know what, that's a great idea. You know, it's called frequency coordination and it reduces the chaos, right? So, and of course, we know what the standard load is here, and we have our own club section And there you go. So, let's see. And if we are serving an agency, what agency do we serve as the Murray Amateur Radio Club? Murray Fire. Yep. Then we proceed to follow the agency's protocol. So, and let's talk about that real quick. In a major emergency, somebody hopefully needs to head off to the EOC, okay? That person will be decided upon during this net that is created. And don't assume anybody is heading over there. Someone needs to, speak up and say, hey, I'll go over there, right? And if there's two people going over there, that's even better. But we all have families, we all have responsibilities. Some of us have church responsibilities. Not all of us will be able to drop everything and support Murray City. Murray City knows that. Murray Fire knows that. Heck, they don't know if they're going to get very many firemen coming in. That may be impossible. Most of the firemen here, they live out of Murray. Okay, they travel to work, and they may not be able to get into work. So the bottom line is we do as best we can, right? And that's all that we can do. But communication is the key. So with the limited resources that we'll end up having, we need to say, hey, Sherwood, can you make it down there? Or Dave, or me, or Sam, or Jeff, or anybody. If we need somebody in the EOC, because that's going to be critical after our own families are taken care of, because we'll probably have one or two people being sent out with the fire trucks if they can even get the trucks out of the bay. I was talking to, was it Joey? No, it was Nick. And he was saying that they experienced a 4-point-something earthquake here in the last couple of years, and they were noticing the top of the bay doors. It was like, the doors were shut, but during the 4 or 5 earthquake, they were seeing big gaps that were going on in there. And this is a brand new building. So, we think this building will be functional, but nobody knows, right? So, anyway, let's see. So we need to contact the agency. We need to contact each other. We need to communicate who's going to do what.
I'll see everyone later.
Okay, have a good one, Dave. Be safe.
And next week is the state takeout there.
Yes, and expect an email this week on the Great Utah Shakeout.
Right.
Okay? Okay. Okay, let's see. If you are heading to the EOC, are you going to take everything with you? What do you need to bring? Do you think you just need your radio and your walking shoes, or?
Well, you're gonna need something to drink, to eat. You don't know how long you're gonna be there.
Bring your 72-hour kit, 96-hour kit with you, okay? Because it's going to be our responsibility to be comfortable, right? We don't have to be comfortable in our when we do events, but heck, why not? So, guess what 2 things are in every pack that I have that I carry out? 2 rolls of TP. Okay. Not one. What? 2 is 1, 1 is none, right? There are certain things that I'm not willing to skimp on. Okay? I'm never going to assume that the place where I'm going will have tons of TP, okay? There are just certain things that I'm going to take care of myself, right? So there's a story behind that, and I'm not going to go into it. But you need to bring stuff with you. So here's some ideas: shelter, water, food, and sanitation. So what time of the year is it? What type of shelter will you need? Will we be able to be in the EOC inside, or will it be inaccessible? What kind of water stores do I need to bring with me? How about filters? I'd definitely bring a filter, right? Bring a few MREs with you. You know, it's good stuff. And sanitation. What are the, you know, if you go inside of a building that has survived the earthquake, you're probably okay. But you need to also remember the neighbors are going to want to use the toilets in the fire station, right? And so you can't assume anything. You need to rely on yourself. This is why it's important to learn all this stuff on how to deal with it yourself.
So there's one other important thing there too. You gotta have some means of getting that kind of stuff there.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you have a wagon or like the hen cart.
Yeah, exactly.
To be able to load up and get it over there.
Even if it's putting a backpack and attaching it to a bicycle, the bicycle doesn't even have to have rubber tires on it, because all you need to do is just push it. All the weight, all your stuff, all your stores is on a broken bicycle, okay? And even that will work, right? We may not have the ability to take a vehicle to where we need to go. The roads might not allow it, or your vehicle may not work and you have to go to plan B. So, okay. One of the most important things, and one of the things that is most often overlooked, is bringing a healthy you. Okay?
Which means having your medication.
Are you healthy today? Are you overweight? Do you eat right today? Not the day of the disaster. What medications are you on now? What are you going to keep, how are you going to keep healthy after a good down event, right? So you want to keep yourself free from illness, injury, and dehydration. You also want to keep yourself free from fatigue, and you need to keep yourself supplied with your personal needs. Everybody's personal needs will be different. And guess what? You are responsible for your own safety, well-being, and comfort, okay? No one else is responsible. The thing that is least responsible is the event itself. And that has to do with the law of the parachute.
Those hands up there, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you.
Okay, but the one finger is pointing at the audience. That's what I want to.
So I just refer, you know, it's gotta go both ways too.
Okay. So what's the law of the parachute? The law of the parachute is, do I have a parachute? Okay. Did I put the parachute on? Do I know how to use the parachute? And when I jumped out of the plane, did I actually deploy the parachute? And is the parachute of life-saving quality?
You have the backup chute on there.
An answer to no on any one of these 5 items. Anyone will assure that you will be a statistic. Okay? Why? Well, gravity has no responsibility on whether or not the parachute works or not. Gravity has no responsibility, okay? Just as gravity has no responsibility for your well-being, neither does a 7.5 earthquake. Mother Nature has no responsibility over your safety and welfare and comfort, okay? She just has no responsibility. She's going to do what she's going to do, and it's just the way it is. So we need to think about the law of the parachute. We need to pack our parachute, and we need to do the very same thing that we do when we don a parachute on. Because failure to do that, you will become a statistic. So here's a summary list of what we need to do before the event. And notice the very last one there, keep yourself fit and healthy. I'm working on that. I think we can all work on that. Some people don't. And my excuse is I'm doing it for the kids. And I need to get away from that. I used to be, when I was on that carnivore diet, I've lost so much. And I've gone back to where I was before, and I hate myself for that. So that's something that I need to do. I'm working on
Easy to
that.
put it on, but almost.
Yeah, it's a
impossible to
bugger.
take off.
So there's the things that you need to do before, and here's the things that you need to do after, okay? And again, there's a PDF of all this, so you don't need to write anything down. And does anybody have any questions on what we talked about?
Well, no questions, but most of those things I've been in, even the volcano, because I was up in Seattle when St. Helens was.
Oh, wow, okay.
We took a mayonnaise jar, filled it full of the ash, and still milled it and sent it home so everybody could see what the ash looked like.
Yeah,
And I seen what happened in California when that 2-story cement bridge went down
yeah,
with that earthquake.
yeah,
And I was up in Cache Valley when they had that earthquake up there. I think it was 64, 65.
okay,
It was like I think it was a 6.7. So it didn't hit the 7, but close.
yeah,
So I've been in a lot of that. I was in Hurricane Hugo, seen the tornadoes, seen the hurricane and everything, so I've seen a lot of that.
and how well are you prepared? Don't answer that question. That is the question that you need to ask yourself.
Yes.
Okay? So, yeah, it's very important to become prepared now. And, oh, by the way, I said at the very last page, I'd have that FEMA Urban Search and Rescue habitat markings. That's what that is there. So that's, again, to be part of the PDF that if you want, or part of the presentation here. So anywho, thanks everybody for joining us for the presentation. We do have a chat. Let me see. Can you repeat that for me? Okay. Russ
just joined.
Joined. Okay, so I think there's he's kidding. Okay. Hey, thanks, Russ. So,
If we have the Texas National Guard, Martin,
say again?
I noticed at the top of the list on your X, on the right, on the left-hand side, it's TX for Texas National Guard.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I guess it'll be UT for Utah.
Yeah.
Utah, Texas National Guard. Apparently this one was done out of Texas, okay? Personally, you'll never have to worry about this, okay? Here's the important ones. The date and time will be here, the hazards, and the number of people found in the habitat. This is the identifier of who's doing it, okay? So you'll never touch this side. These 3 quadrants you could. Okay.
One
Good eye.
nice thing too, in our ward, they have set up the ward in 10 divisions. And they've made binders with addresses that people are supposed to take around, but they have those in there. So they can be put, when the home is checked, they can put that up on
Yeah, good.
the window or door and have it indicate those things that are there.
Right, excellent.
The only problem is they're in the bishop's office and it's gonna be locked. But I asked them, okay, what happens when there's nobody over there so you can get in and get them? Oh, just break the window.
Yeah, that's sometimes the only thing you can do,
Yeah.
so.
They
Okay,
bought 16 GRMS radios.
I'm sorry?
They bought 16 GRMS radios.
Oh, good, good.
And a big pack of batteries from Costco.
And do they know how to use it?
Do they have a
They
license?
just sat there in the bishop's office, nobody knows they're there.
See, this is the problem with, I gotta be careful what I say. That is great that they're trying to do things to solve the problem. So the next half of that is becoming a resource to teach them how to deal with it, right? So,
What I tried to do is get an appointment to go in and talk to the bishopric, the ward council, and that so that they would know a lot of this stuff. They says, no, we don't need that because we know what the state wants. No, you don't.
okay,
And I was the communications specialist, but I wasn't invited in to put this together,
of course not,
so.
yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see how it'll all go down when it hits.
And the thing is, you know, each ward is supposed to have an ERC. The state has one, and the communications can go up each level if it's needed, and stuff like that, but the problem is, in our ward, we have the most check-ins on a ward level. We average about 12. That's all older people. The young people won't do it.
Yeah.
And is those older people, I know one couple, they can hardly get around anyway, and they both have macular degeneration, and both get shots all the time, just like my wife. So are they gonna be able to do anything? So out of those 12, there's 2 out of the way.
Yep.
So, but you can't get the interest into the younger groups to want to do anything. And that's where it needs to come. You gotta get some of those younger ones.
One thing that we've done, just may give you an idea in our stake, is we already know that the youth are going to be critical in post-event. They're going to be the runners. They're going to be the ones that will be helping the adults do stuff that they can't do. There's 2 things that will happen and that needs to be trained with. One, there's going to be people, especially youth, who will think that leaning house is okay to go into, even though they're hearing people on the inside. They're going to go in there and the house is going to collapse the rest of the way. There's going to be an aftershock. Now we have more victims, okay?
And nobody to do that.
And nobody to help extricate, right? So part of this whole learning process is teaching that the volunteers who are going out, especially the young people, because those are the people who will think that they are invincible, to do not go in until you're in, unless you're told to go in. And this is why it's important that we have these adults that have gone through CERT, that know the signs of an unsafe habitat, right? And if you go into an unsafe habitat, you know, you're just asking for trouble. So
You're asking to become the victim.
and you end up becoming the victim. So that's rule number 1. Volunteers do not enter questionable habitats. I don't care what's screaming inside, okay? You do not go in, end of story. And this is the part where I get a lot of weird looks, mostly growls, because they think, boy, where's being Christ-like in that attitude, right? Well, Christ-like is helping the most amount of people in the shortest amount of time, right? Without killing off your help.
Yeah.
That's why ambulances slow down at intersections.
Yep.
And fire engines
And cops, usually,
yeah.
they slow down because they don't want to be a victim. Exactly.
Especially in the day.
And it's hard, it's tough to teach that, but, you know, I've done this before. People who look at me and they're going, what are you talking about? You know, and I ask them, how many 7.5 earthquakes have you been in? Okay, and they'll say, well, I was in the 5.7 Magna earthquake. That ought to impress you. You know, no, you don't understand. When you have buildings collapsing on one another and you see the condition of bodies out there, that's what you see in a 7.5 earthquake, okay? You didn't see that in Magna. A lot of damage in Magna, right? There's a lot of building damage, but we're talking two different universes of damage, right? And so having gone through two of those earthquakes and having seen the destruction firsthand, and then learning how best to control that chaos from all the experiences from other earthquakes and other events, you start getting a sense of what works and what doesn't work, right? And this is the thing about that FEMA tries to do. There's a lot of bad things I can say about FEMA, but one thing good I like to say about them is they like to learn from previous experiences, right? And any organization worth their weight in gold does that. They learn from their experiences, right? And they see what doesn't work and they see what works. And so that's what FEMA's been doing for the last number of international disasters, right? And that is why we don't allow people to go in buildings at a 30-degree angle, right? There is no other, I don't care, right? It is what it is. Yes, it's hard, but we need to get professionals to do that, okay? And I'm sorry, your 16-year-old kid is not a professional. He has a professional heart. He wants to help, but that will kill him, okay? And so you have to do it, especially if people who work with hospitals and when they do these trauma calls where you got 150 people coming in, and you have to get not quarantine, but, Triage. When you have to triage, you have to decide who lives and who dies. And, you know, it becomes real, right? And so the rules change when an event happens that a triage is warranted, okay? A 7.5 earthquake, triage is the name of the game at every medical center, okay? Every ambulance, every paramedic, they are dealing now with triage. All the other rules are out the door, okay? They have a completely set of rules for major disasters where you're deciding, and many times, who lives and who dies, right? And it's a tough business, but the goal is always to do the most good for the most amount of people. That has to take precedence over spending all of our resources on one person
That dies anyway.
that could die anyway, and you could have just saved 50 people, you know? And if I'm that one, of course, those rules don't apply if I need help. No, I want you to walk away from my screams if that's what needs to happen. I'm okay with that, okay? Because I know that is the law in disasters. Okay, boy, talk about ending on a downer. Anyway, thanks everybody. I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to stop the share.
Have to be said too.